Heyo, Greg Branos here for the Coachspeak Index. What up? What's going on? The fantasy season, the 2025 fantasy season is over. Champions have been crowned. Congrats to my pal Sam Sherman, taking down $2 million, winning Underdog's Best Ball Mania 6 last night. Incredible sweat show on ship chasing. Just amazing stuff. Congrats, Sam. And so that's it for the fantasy season. Oh, except it's not it. Except there's another just glorious fantasy football contest still happening. And that's playoff best ball. You've probably heard of it by now. More and more people are talking about it. It's been a thing for a few years. It's great. You've heard me talk about it on this podcast in these intros that maybe you're skipping. Shout out to the guy who puts timestamps on all of my videos saying this is where it actually starts. I'm not mad about it at all. And now me saying that seems like I am mad about it and then I'm being facetious. I'm not being facetious. I think it's helpful. Not everyone wants to listen to an intro. Anyway, where was I? Playoff best ball. Yeah. You've heard me talk about it on the show. I love it. And in case you thought that it was some grand facade that I was putting on, that I'm just talking about it, to link it with Underdog or whatever. No, I am in these playoff best ball streets. I've been drafting a lot of the gauntlet. I'm enraptured. I'm fascinated by playoff best ball and how it kind of introduces futures markets into this. Which teams do we think are going to make it to the Super Bowl? So I've been drafting a lot of that. And while I've been drafting, I've just noticed there's some really tough decisions that you have to make when it comes to especially teams, when it comes to structures. And I wanted to make sure that I'm being informed when I'm making these decisions, right? So I wanted to bring someone in to talk about this stuff like which Rams tight end should we be drafting? Oh, a little preview there for you. That's what you're missing when you don't listen to the intros. You miss the nice little teases of what lies in store for you on this just outstanding episode. Truly, not being facetious, being honest. I just have a weird tone register of my voice. I'm unable to modulate correctly. So, I brought on Pat Kerrane, and we just answered the toughest questions facing us in playoff best ball. And so very appreciative to Pat for coming on the show. I only derailed this, I think, like one time, which I think is pretty good for a 2-hour conversation. But he is also a former Best Ball Mania champion. And he has a really terrific brain. I was going to say fantasy brain, but he just has a terrific brain overall. Funny guy. Yes, he knows about fantasy, but he's more than just that. Don't limit him. Don't box Pat Kerrane in. Come on, people. Just a wonderful human being, and so glad that he came on to the show to talk about playoff best ball. By the way, if you're interested in playoff best ball, get on Underdog. A little QR code there, bottom left-hand corner. Ooh, shoehorn that one in right at the last minute. Good job, Greg, on that segue. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick'em, and I'll see you in the gauntlet lobbies, folks. All right, here we go with Pat Kerrane. Legendary upsides, Pat Kerrane. What's up, brother?
How's it going?
Going well, going well. We're past the regular season of best ball and fantasy football. Got to see our pal Sam Sherman win $2 million last night.
Yeah, man.
On a
Crazy
very
stuff.
exciting
Congrats to Sam.
shit-facing stream. Yeah, congrats. That was very high value entertainment, and you could tell Sam was everybody was living and dying with every play near the end of the game. It was so high stakes. It literally the highest stakes.
Well, he had a huge lead coming in, and he's sweating Puka and Kyle Pitts primarily because there's a team that had both, and he had Darnell Mooney and Blake Corum and Tyler Algier, so he had like some other paths to replace. I think like a 10 whatever Amon-Ra had, but then the sweat flipped to Bijan, and then he still had to sweat Puka, and then you're sweating game going to overtime where maybe everyone gets there.
Yeah.
So that was the sweat, like it kind of had this snowball effect of like, oh no, like this could get really bad. But then if the game just ends like right now, he wins $2 million. So I was really feeling for him because it's like, God, this you're living and dying with every play there. And then the Rams, of course, are like taking deep shots at bouncing off, people's hands, and then Puka almost makes that insane catch. So
yeah. The Puka Kyle Pitts stuff to start the game was like a big enough sweat, but then having Bijan Robinson come like one of those horses in a horse race.
Yes, exactly.
Go viral, right? People like, oh my God, look at this horse come from so far back. That's what it was like with Bijan last night. Going in, it's okay. Well, 50 from Bijan, maybe like it's guys past a certain point. You're not even looking at like,
you're not like too familiar with what they need, because you're like, if that happens, I'll worry about it when it happens. Yeah. But then it was happening.
Right. Like, so 38 from Tutu Atwell.
Right. So, but I mean,
Bijan is a guy that like can obviously put up those crazy numbers, right?
And rooting for stuff is just more fun than rooting against stuff. And when you have to root against Bijan Robinson, who like right now, when Bijan Robinson hits his second gear, you see like how attainable his like third and fourth gear are, that it's like, it's terrifying to see him get to the second. You just want him hit immediately. It's like kind of Derrick Henry-esque, where it's like, just do not let this guy start to get up to speed. And, in that way, he's got, kind of more of the acceleration profile than the power profile. But I mean, dude, it's and they kept feeding him, and he looked as good as he's looked all season. So, God, yeah, I'm just like,
the worst part is
such a bad.
He almost did break off another big touchdown run, which would have like, not.
He got tripped up one time. Down. I mean, and it got to the point, it got so close that he on the final drive, I think Bijan could have gotten there on yards, maybe not the final, but it started to get to the point where if there's enough drives, he rips off a few chunk plays, and then especially if it goes to overtime, he didn't even need to score a touchdown anymore to get passed by Bijan. So that's when it got really scary. So anyway,
but losing on one of those big Bijan runs would have been bad enough, but then like you probably end up getting that like Falcons home overhead sky cam of Bijan Robinson like making some shifty move to like seal up the game.
The one that kind of follows him.
Yeah. Everybody's retweeting it, and
God,
15 million views
run of the year. Yeah.
Right.
I've never seen moves like this.
Yeah, he's getting the scepter from Kyle Brandt.
Oh no, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that he was in that mode last night. So, God, it all felt. I just was the big thing for me. It's like, please do not let this game go to overtime, because it's like you have to the emotional element of like, I thought this game was going to end, and now I've got like another period to sweat. That was it just seemed unfair. So I'm very glad it did not go to overtime.
Yeah,
and the same one.
Hell yeah! So that was That was regular season best ball. And today we're going to talk about playoff best ball, which is growing in popularity with good reason. Really just like a super fun game that has like a layer of kind of game theory that regular season best ball doesn't have. And, like futures play into it, right? If you think you have a real good feel of who's going to end up in the Super Bowl on a certain side. So today we're gonna answer some of playoff best ball's toughest questions, and we got Pat here as our Sherpa. He's gonna guide us, and we will not be left stranded on this mountain that we're climbing to the best ball playoff championship. That's I'm sure you feel up to the task, Pat. Right?
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, let's start off with which Los Angeles Rams tight end are we drafting?
I've been a Parkinson guy because he's kind of been the most involved for a while, but I think you could do Ferguson if you want. Higbee also, is someone you might have to think about, especially if you're thinking for the Super Bowl, because the way this works is if you're drafting a Rams tight end, you're probably building a Rams team, like Rams go to the Super Bowl team. And that's why the tight end would matter to you, is that you need to fill out a tight end spot. Because if people aren't familiar, like you have to have you have to have players who are literally playing games in each round, and each round is the round of the playoffs. So when you get to the Super Bowl, you need to have players who are actually playing in the Super Bowl. So you got the Rams and then whoever's on the AFC side. And you may just want to take the Rams tight end instead of, trying to predict the AFC side of the Super Bowl that way. But it would be with the idea that this is not going to be a particularly high scoring player for you. So, and it's really just there to help fill the Super Bowl. With that in mind, maybe you don't take a Rams tight end at all and you take someone from the AFC side. And if you're betting on the Jaguars, maybe to get there, you've got Brenton Strange. You could take Evan Ingram. Like you could build Rams Broncos, and then you can grab a tight end like a Kittle or something like that, and play kind of an advanced guy who's going to help you early. I guess Kittle could end up with the bye, so maybe he's a bad example now. But you get someone early on who's going to like Hunter Henry maybe, and so you don't have to bother with that. Is another way to go, is that you make multiple bets on AFC teams that are going to face the Rams instead of trying to pick the Rams tight end.
In a situation though where you draft Kyren Williams in the second round and you don't get Devontae Adams, and you don't, maybe you don't get Stafford either, right? So you just have this one Rams piece, then like you pretty much have to take one of the tight ends later, right? Because like Puka's obviously already off the board. Like there's no, like the only pieces left after, Puka, Devontae, Kyren is, obviously Corum, but the pass catchers is like basically just the tight ends, unless we're taking an extreme scroll down flyer on like Xavier Smith or Conate Mumfield, like something that I wouldn't recommend.
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need that to be a Rams go to the Super Bowl team if you just have Kyren. Like Kyren becomes the Rams become, when we were initially drafting this, you've got Rams or bye week and they're not going to help you early, but now they are going to help you early.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at them as the 5 seed or the 6 seed, and the 49ers or the Seahawks are going to be the 1 seed. So if you have Kyren, maybe that's because they run all over the Panthers or whatever. And, and that's like a really great outcome to help you get through round 1. And then they beat the Panthers. So now you're live in round 2, and you've got the 5 seed taking on, let's say, the 49ers. And Kyren could have an awesome game there, and they could win that game. And so then you have Rams maybe getting to the NFC Conference Championship game. But at that point, maybe you have something else coming online, or like kind of taking the baton from Kerrane, like maybe you've got a Bears thing, right, that you built out later, cheaper. Maybe it's Packers, because those two teams probably play each other, and you can kind of build either side. So yeah, I don't think you need to feel like, well, I've got Kerrane, I have to build to the Rams. Like, you can kind of have pieces that you draft early that if the room kind of decides that isn't a Super Bowl team because you don't have enough pieces for it to really make you money. If it is the Super Bowl, you can pivot to it just helping you get to the Super Bowl.
This situation of Kerrane running crazy in the first round seems a lot more plausible now after Blake Corum last night with the ankle injury. Like, we have no clarity on that at the moment of like how severe an injury that is. And, we go from Kerrane getting 60% or 66%, what it is, like 65-35 that McVay wants, to like, okay, we're back to 95% Kerrane Williams in the first round here. This is kind of a fascinating offense, the way that they've evolved this year. In the past was a lot more concentrated, of like, okay, it's Puka and Cooper Kupp, and then sometimes it's the tight end, but it's one tight end, right? It's like Tyler Higbee, who was
Right.
their guy in the playoffs last year and at the end of the regular season, and like this kind of like glue guy for their offense. But now, using all this 13 personnel, we are seeing a lot of Colby Parkinson in this kind of intermediate range, and then we're seeing them take these deep shots downfield to Terrence Ferguson, which for a while they weren't connecting on during the regular season. It was like the one guy that Matthew Stafford could not put the ball on,
Right.
was Terrence Ferguson. But now that's started to kind of heat up a little bit now. And yeah, like I think you could easily see like a Terrence Ferguson having, one playable game in the playoffs, and then like maybe Parkinson has, like maybe Tyler Higbee comes back. It does make it a very kind of messy situation there.
Yeah, I do think it's a little different. Like, there's a reason it's kind of interesting to think through this one, as opposed to like the Packers tight end situation, which just feels like I don't know. But the Rams are like using their tight ends, and a lot of this heavy personnel stuff, it's like a really big part of what they're doing. So you are seeing, these guys out there. And we also have seen, players who you're like, that guy's not going to matter. Juwan Jennings was the key to winning these tournaments a couple years ago when it was the 49ers and the Chiefs. So like these, and at the time, Juwan Jennings was not someone we thought about much at all for fantasy. So it is important, I think, to consider the idea of, once you get to the Super Bowl, one of these guys who, as long as they have a role, we've seen them have the ability to spike a little bit. They are kind of interesting. But you need to be building so that those guys don't really have to do much until you get them to the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. I guess, one way to do that, you mentioned like a Jacksonville kind of stack, and you can do that with, we'll talk later about 1 QB builds, but doing just like, okay, I'm betting on, because this is what we're doing in playoff best ball, is like each team that we're drafting is like, we're drafting for a particular scenario, right? We don't know at the outset, until like a couple rounds in or a few rounds in. It's like, all right, this is what this is going to end up being. I'm banking on the Jacksonville Jaguars to make the Super Bowl, and either like the Rams or the Eagles make it there, and try to have obviously as many pieces as possible. But doing like a 1 QB build with Trevor Lawrence, a guy that we know can put up a lot of points, on a quarterback of an offense that like is scoring a shitload of points right now. Liam Cohen deep in his bag, but yeah, just doing like Lawrence, ETN, or like Lawrence and a bunch of pass catchers, and you're just like, obviously the Jags need to make the Super Bowl, but if they make the Super Bowl, it's probably behind Trevor Lawrence here, and then you're giving yourself an extra shot, right?
Yeah, I think when when you're going into these playoff basketball drafts, like you can't know like what your team's going to be until you're in it. And then I think this is a game that I really think you want to attack with volume. So whatever, you're planning on risking in this, my preference personally would be to try to get as many drafts in rather than do like a few high stakes. Like if I was like, I'm going to spend 200 on this, like I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to draft mittens, which are $5, or whatever. Maybe little mittens, which are like $3. But I would not be like, I'm going to do two, $100 drafts, because
Yeah.
this is like a really, really variant game. And the ability to be like, I'm going to accept some of that variance is, I think, very helpful, because that allows you to go into the draft and be flexible and let the draft room kind of tell you like, hey, we all hate the Eagles. I'm like, all right, then I like the Eagles because now I can get all the Eagles, right? Or we hate the Packers. We have no interest in any Bear, whatever. And you can just like get a whole offense. That's great. That's I think, like the Packers would be an example right now of like you can just literally get every single Packer. Now they are going to be the 7 seed, but they're going to play the Bears, which are pretty beatable, and then they'd go play the 49ers, which is probably going to be high scoring at the very least, and then maybe they the 49ers don't have a good defense. We all know this. It's really hurt. A ton of injuries, key injuries. Like they could upset the 49ers. And now you're looking at a conference championship game where you have the entire Packers offense. Pretty good. So but it's not like every time I'm going in, I'm like, give me the Packers. It's just I want to be able to be flexible so that if I have a bunch of Jaguars kind of fall to me, then and the Jaguars make a Super Bowl run, I've got the nuts. It's like if certain things break in the NFL playoffs, I would like to have the nuts. And trying to build as many teams like that.
Yeah, I have this kind of flow chart in these drafts, like these pivot points where, okay, if this happens, like this is my fallback. I have all these fallback plans, and you can do that when you have, like you said, that the Packers are going like very, very late now. I was in a draft last night where the only Packer that was drafted was Christian Watson, and it was like 3 picks left in the draft in the final round.
Oh my god!
It would
Jacobs hadn't gone.
Jacobs did not go in this draft.
Wow!
And I had like already built towards something else, right?
Yeah,
like if I had known that they were going to fall like that, like an easy pivot point right now is still Ravens right before this Ravens Steelers game this week. But like you can get the Ravens in the final rounds, and we can do this thing of like, oh, this team has no shot of making the Super Bowl or whatever. Like I'm a little bit scared of the Packers, but like at the same time, they are still very live. This is like one of the most wide open years in the playoffs, I think, of like there's no like clear dominant team. All of these teams have these flaws, right? And some of them have like really, really big flaws. But like maybe the other team that they're playing, their flaws show up as well, and these teams can kind of skirt by, like the Packers.
Well, I mean the Packers. I just googling look ahead lines on it. It looks like they will probably be like 2-point dogs to the Bears. Okay.
Yeah.
That's hardly a huge dog, given that they're playing in Chicago.
They'll be like
4 point, 4.5
5 point dogs the next round. Like if you put
the next
those
round of the 49ers, yeah,
in a parlay, like it's not that big of a payout, right? It's not that big of a long shot for that.
Right. But then you get that team to and the thing about the Packers too is that you can build with them with a team like the Bills or the Patriots, where you have these guys who just aren't going to score that many points. So it's like, hey, let me get a team where they actually have potential to score a bunch of points, especially if pushed. You know, and you could really see them getting pushed by the 49ers in particular. And, you know, that's what allows you to get through. Like, I mean, Drake Maye right now is putting up points, but not a lot of Patriots are putting up points. And it's kind of the same for Josh Allen and James Cook. Like, it's those two guys and not a lot else. So um, having those teams that can actually put up points and win a couple rounds, and I would put the Jaguars, you know, in this camp too. It's not just the Packers, of course, but it's one of the reasons that they are appealing right now.
Yeah, I think Jaguars is my like biggest, like that's the most teams that I have right now are like Jags teams in the gauntlet. Speaking of Josh Allen, that leads us to our next question of which Bills are we stacking with Josh Allen?
Well, personally, I am stacking Josh Allen with James Cook. I want to play this through James Cook, not Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Josh Allen should be going ahead of James Cook because there's so many ways you can play quarterback on the NFC side. Right? If you just pick your NFC representative and maybe you pick a couple, right? You do a Bills thing and then you take a couple quarterbacks, the ability to get, you know, a few two, like let's say two bets on the NFC side of quarterback. And it's not that you're just like that guy has to beat Allen. You're hoping that he does enough so that you can cover Allen teams that are also going to be heavy on low scoring Bills players. And so you kind of beat them that way. So I would love to have Cook and Allen. That would be the goal. But when I end up taking Allen first, which I will do, but I prefer to take Cook first. It's you end up in like a trickier situation because then you kind of end up like you a lot of times I end up betting on an NFC team anyway, and then sometimes with that quarterback. And so I'm like, what is Allen giving me? I'm like, I have this. My first pick was sort of, I'm hoping he marginally adds points over like a Brock Purdy or Matthew Stafford or whatever else. So yeah, obviously Josh Allen can absolutely nuke, and he could be what you need, but my preference is to play it through Cook first, and then when you do have Allen, yeah, I mean it's not particularly inspiring to go with Shakir, and then you've got the Dalton Kincaid injury. You know, I assume he's going to be good for the playoffs, but he's got a lava lamp in his knee. For people who don't know, it's back. I thought the lava lamp was gone. It's not.
They turned it back on.
I turned it back on. That damn lava lamp. It got hot. You know, the lava lamps are fine. Gotta let it cool really down. Hot. Yeah, you gotta let the lava lamp.
That's why he's been playing like 35% of snaps when he plays. Yeah. It activates after a certain number of snaps.
That's just medicine, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not battery powered. You don't plug it in. It's like activity powered, right? One of those things. It's like
that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you want to try to get Shakir, I would say, you know, but man, it's not inspiring stuff. Like I think the nice thing about Cook is that it allows you to play these Bills teams where you're like the Bills play the way frankly they want to play and just run the ball a ton. Yeah. And that Cook becomes this like incredible Super Bowl piece where you're like Bills run in my team where I have, you know, all the Eagles. You know, I've got literally have the entire Eagles team. Plus James Cook, let's say. Maybe you don't have AJ Brown. Maybe it's Cook, Barkley, and Devontae, and you know, and so maybe you miss one of them. But you've got like almost all the Eagles plus a James Cook. That could be good. That could win you some money.
That's pretty good. I'm looking at my little cheat sheet. I've got 3 Buffalo, Philly. teams in the gauntlet.
Nice. I like
Yeah, I think if offensive coordinator Joe Brady were drafting in the gauntlet, I think he would also take James Cook.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, ahead of Josh Allen.
I would. He's wrong, but like he would. So the fact that he would means I will,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
you
also it's a game where like running back is harder. It's harder to find points at running back than quarterback in this game right now.
And with the first round being just like so tough to get out of, like you need some monster performances like Ladd McConkey last year. Well, like
Right.
James Cook is a guy who in the first round he's gonna get a lot of usage. They're gonna hand the ball off to him like 30 times. And yeah, you were talking about, I think you mentioned doing like 2 NFC quarterbacks, so doing like a James Cook and either like a Shakir, or later Dawson Knox is somebody who I've taken a little bit with this whole like lava lamp knee thing for Kincaid, of doing like, okay, Cook, one other Bills piece, and then the rest is just like 2 NFC teams, so like Eagles and Packers, or like Packers and Bears, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that works well. You can't really play it through the Seahawks because you're not going to have Cook and JSN, and I don't really like to go like if I don't have JSN, I don't want the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and then now I don't have Allen either, so that's not that fun. But yeah, I mean you could play it through. Playing through the Rams is tricky too because you're not going to have Puka, and you're probably going to have one piece of the Rams. So 49ers, I think, are a good option. Eagles, Packers, Bears would probably be the main options. Is the way things are breaking down right now. The other thing you can do is you can build Patriots, or you can build Broncos, or even Texans, or something like you don't have to have the NFC side. Like Cook can be in the same way I talked about the Packers being kind of an advance rate piece, and not just in round 1, but like a multiple round advance piece. Cook can be that for you too, and you can build through an AFC team. So like I've done a few of these where it's like Patriots, who are another team like the Bills that's kind of hard to get through in those early rounds. I've got like Patriots, Packers, Bills. Right. And so it's like I'm trying to smuggle the Patriots guys into the Super Bowl, and I don't. So it's like Ramondre. Let's say I don't have Travion, like Ramondre, May, Diggs, Henry, Booty. Okay. I need some points early. So I've got James Cook, I've got Josh Jacobs, I've got Watson, I've got like pretty much all the Packers. And then I've got James Cook as a guy who's going to lose at some point, unless I also get Love, and then maybe I have Bills, Packers covered. But I've also got Patriots, so I can go Patriots, Packers, but I have 5 Patriots, so I don't need. I can kind of have them play anybody. Like I could have it be Patriots, Bears. That would be probably decent. Well, that would actually be bad because the Bears and the Packers play. But Patriots, let's say Patriots, Seahawks, and JSN's quiet. I could be okay.
How much? It's going to get easier. It's becoming easier already to pair Josh Allen with James Cook. Like that was impossible a week or 2 ago. When I've been taking Josh Allen, I've been pairing him with Ty Johnson a decent amount, and I'm like just betting on, okay, like Bills are playing behind in games, right? And like when that's happening, we see an increased number of snaps for Ty Johnson, and he's a guy who's like involved obviously on third downs, but like they'll call some plays for him now and then. We've seen these like really big plays, a few weeks ago. This year, I think in the best ball playoffs last year, Ty Johnson did pretty well. So that's something that I'm obviously would rather have Josh Allen and James Cook, but there's a chance that like Ty Johnson is viable in the playoffs, but you have to play it of like maybe he gets me nothing at all, so he's like a third running back basically.
Yeah, and I think you'd want to have that, and then probably NFC running back on the other side. So maybe you've got, in the who would you even? I mean, if you again, we're constantly talking about the Packers, but if you have a Josh Jacobs or something like that, and then he kind of goes by the wayside, or DeAndre Swift, or
like Kerrane, right? You do like Josh Allen, Kerrane.
Well, I was thinking you have Cook in
Josh
this
Jacobs
case
later,
but I guess you're right. You don't have Cook. Yeah, so in that case, I mean, you could play through the Seahawks. You could have like a JSN Allen if you're at the 5. Like, let's say you're at the 6 hole and you were gifted a JSN Allen.
yeah.
Then you could play that through Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, Ty Johnson. Let's say. You could even go Kenneth Walker, no Charbonnet, Ty Johnson, and an advanced running back. Someone to kind of give you points in one of the first couple rounds, like an ETN.
Henry.
Yeah, Henry, ETN, even a Harvey, post buy coming to help out, a Hampton, someone along those lines to help, because Ty Johnson's just not going to do anything for you. He's just there to be a Super Bowl body.
Yeah. So I had the idea for this episode last week, and like one of the immediate questions that I had was, which Patriots players are we going to stack with 2025 NFL MVP Drake Maye? Since then, Mac Hollins.
What a world.
Right? Second year. Incredible. He's good. He's good.
He's pretty good. Yeah, it turns out. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so since then, Mac Hollins on IR with the abdomen, like, could potentially come back like for the Super Bowl or AFC Championship, one of those two. But like, I don't know, probably not. And then we have the Stephon Diggs assault incident today, which like probably won't end up in a suspension this season, I would guess at this point, but like something.
Yeah, I guess the police report came out, or it was like from the officer who took the initial statement. That report came out today. Ultimately, having read that, I think we're probably looking at something in 2026, not 2025 would be my guess. But yeah, obviously, I don't know.
At this rate, next week we'll be down to like Kyle Williams and Efton Chisholm for
Efton Chisholm. Yeah, he had a catch last week, man.
The only eligible pass catchers for the Patriots there at wide receiver. But yeah, how are you playing Pats with Drake Maye?
I mean, if you can get like Drake Maye Henderson, that was easier to get a while ago. That's obviously very, very fun. If you can get Henderson, Diggs, I think some of the thing with Hollins being out is that Hollins, Diggs, and Booty were kind of splitting outside routes, and then Kyle Williams was coming in. And I think Hollins being out will boost everybody. Like I think we'll see more routes from Diggs, and I think we'll see more routes from Booty, and not like Kyle Williams, I think kind of maybe missed his chance a little bit. Wasn't like terrible last week, but there was a big chance to kind of step up, and I think the Booty connection is a little stronger. So playing it through, like having Hollins out, I think probably just makes it a little bit more condensed, largely. So
Yeah, it clears the field a little bit more for us here. It's still not like, oh, these are the top guys, right? It's kind of like the Bills, but more competent, I think. Like with
Yeah,
with the quarterback and the receiving core here. Have you taken any Kyle Williams? Like I'm curious. What who is your most
not really.
scroll down player that you've taken at least once or twice?
Mm, let me think. I mean, let's see. All right, I've taken Packers tight end at some point, which is pretty scroll down. I haven't done that in a while, but that was back when I thought the Packers might be more than just kind of advance rate pieces.
Was that after the Fitzpatrick injury?
Uh, there was actually before, but it wasn't.
Mm,
But I didn't take Fitzpatrick, so so that helped.
yeah, Musgrave, I'm
Um,
guessing.
Musgrave and Wiley. I think I've taken one of each.
Oh
Uh,
wow, Wiley's
yeah,
a hell of a
I
scroll
was
down.
I was down there pretty far. I mean, I think the Rams tight ends are pretty scrolly. Dawson Knox, I think, is a good scroll down guy with the lava lamp concerns.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think Kyle Williams is crazy, especially on DraftKings, but you can like Shaheed would probably be a pretty scroll downy, I suppose.
Okay, yeah, I've
But yeah,
taken some Shaheed and some Barner
yeah,
there
Barner's a
for
good one.
Seattle.
Barner's a good one.
Yeah, he's another guy who's like you're not you're not going to get usable weeks out of him every week, but like you're probably going to get one usable week out of him, and maybe it's the Super Bowl week, right? And maybe they get a couple PIs in the end zone, and they do their whole AJ Barner tush push on the goal line, which they like to do, and you end up with like 16
Yeah.
AJ Barner points. Like it's in the realm of possibility, right? We're talking about all possible scenarios here,
Well, he has
and
touchdown equity, and then I think that's a big part of half PPR scoring, right? So
they're not
uh,
spreading the ball around to a ton of people on offense.
no,
Now they're not
no,
throwing the ball a ton either, but when they do
right.
throw the ball, it's the
Now
most
they're not
wonderful.
throwing the ball, but
Okay, in this scenario, we're just betting on the NFL to outlaw
but
running the ball.
like the Seahawks did just have that shootout with the Rams. It's funny. One of the things I think is a big advantage, and this part of it, I mean, we're recording this right before Week 18, and there aren't that many meaningful non-playoff games left in the whole league.
Mhm.
But it is, I mean, especially if this is something that you're, doing in future years, and you just kind of think about this game. It's fun to draft these teams over a period of time because sentiment around these teams like really ebbs and flows, and people are tied. I mean, people includes me. We were like, this team sucks, like or this team doesn't score points.
Yeah.
They never throw. I can't imagine a world where they ever gonna like put up points through the air, and then like you turn on your TV that night, and it's like a mega shootout with the Rams, that they win.
Mhm.
So it's football's crazy, and a ton of stuff, unexpected stuff happens all the time. So if the field is sort of too locked into certain outcomes or certain, assessments on teams, then it's I think you want to bet against that overconfidence as much as you can. And the nice thing is that there's going to be another window after more games are played. Like next week, we're going to know for sure that, every seed, and we're going to think some teams suck more than we thought before because they blew a game they should have won, or some team's going to look awesome and we're going to want that team, right? So you are going to get one more week where this week people might feel pretty differently. Like the 49ers and the Seahawks would be one where we could see things swing pretty far in either direction based on how that game goes.
Yeah,
Not just in the objective part, but the subjective part.
that game has such gigantic ramifications on playoff best ball, and not just for my portfolio because I have a bunch of like Niners super stacks, right? Who like I need them to lose so they don't have a first round bye. So I get to use like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, all these guys in the first round. But then also, like, it's kind of cool if Seattle is the number 1 seed as a team that we're not drafting a lot of pieces from. It's like JSN and Kenneth Walker, like JSN and Charbonnet, and maybe we're throwing like another pass catcher in there, but we're not doing these like 5 Seahawk builds that you're doing with like the Packers or the Niners or the Jaguars, right? Like it's a very concentrated kind of offense there. So if the Niners take the 1 seed, that's gonna be pretty brutal, I think.
Yeah, although the Niners are kind of interesting because we talked with the Bills and how you can build there. I mean, obviously McCaffrey and Cook you're not going to have, but you could have Cook and build through Niners stuff as well, and have the Niners, who we've seen from Brock Purdy that he has a really high ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Bills running game, and then you go 49ers passing game, and you could see how that would actually work out very, very well for you, in that Super Bowl. So but then you have to get them through. So then, maybe you end up with Jags stuff. And so you can but then you have outs to a Bills 49ers Super Bowl or Jags 49ers Super Bowl. And Jags and Bills become like how you get the team through, assuming that the 49ers do have the 1 seed, which obviously they may not, which would be quite helpful for your advancement. But yeah, that's one way to get, because if you're thinking through the 49ers and the Seahawks, you do have to be thinking about that bye. And if you're going to be able to get that team through, if they do get the bye.
I want to talk about 1 seeds real quick, and like how, if let's say for the sake of this, we know that it's going to be Denver and Seattle as the 2 top seeds. How are you doing a build with both 1 seeds? If you think both 1 seeds are going to meet in the Super Bowl, right? You think it's going to be Denver, Seattle. Like, how are you doing a build where you can survive the first round, where you don't have any of these guys going, but you still need enough of them in a Super Bowl?
So I think if you are playing Denver, Seattle, then in some ways, like, you don't need to play both teams. And so we have a tool over at Leg Up called the Sidekick that is driven by Sims. And this has helped us understand the game a little bit more, where some of the stuff that we would kind of think through and had as rules of thumb, the Sims like a little bit less than we thought. And one of them would be kind of like filling out those fill out pieces where you have like, well, I gotta tack on Rashid Shaheed, or maybe even someone weaker than that, like a Pat Bryant, to get that 5th Super Bowl piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you probably aren't gonna get the Super Bowl though. So what if instead of like a Pat Bryant, you took, a Kyle Monangai, or someone, or like a Zay Flowers, or someone to get you to the Super Bowl, and maybe, and not just help you in round 1, but help you in a couple rounds, if it's the right bet. So, with the Seahawks and the Broncos are going to be extremely hard to advance. Like, first of all, you really need to be limited to 5 players from both teams,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can have 5 players to score points to get out of round 1, if we're talking the gauntlet. And then some ways I would be inclined to just take one of the teams, right? So I just like I'd get the 5 Seahawks, and now I don't need it to be the Broncos, because the Broncos aren't such a high scoring team that like, it's like, oh man, if I don't have Broncos, like, what? do I even care that I don't have Broncos if I've got the entire Seahawks team?
Mm.
I've got JSN, I've got Walker, I've got Darnold. Let's say I've got Charbonnet, and then I've got one of Shaheed or Cup or Barner. Or you could even sub out Charbonnet for another one of those guys. But I've got, that's what I have. And then I'm just like AFC non-Broncos, get me there, right? Or maybe even have like a Kerrane or something on the NFC side to help get there. But on the other side, if I'm playing Broncos, I'm not sure I want it to be the Seahawks because I probably don't have JSN. I mean, sure, if I have JSN, I guess you could flip it and play to like a Harvey, Knicks, maybe get a Sutton, although I don't know if I want to spend that high of a pick on him. Might not even be able to get him with Harvey. So, yeah, but that's it. Once I have those 5 guys, I'd start to break more rules to advance the team. So if I really, really, really wanted to do 1 seed, and I've got, let's say, and I'll go expensive 1 seed. So I've got Harvey, JSN, Walker, Sutton, and then one of the core, and Knicks, who's going to probably be the more expensive of those quarterbacks. So that might be my first 5 picks, or 5 of my first 6 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I'd be like, I think I'd be more inclined to take risk and take like a Derrick Henry. I think I'd be, because we might not even make the playoffs, but if he does, and I'd be more inclined to take like, because ideally you're taking teams that aren't going to be eliminated by like facing each other. But that would be like a case where I would be like, yeah, these teams play each other in round 1, but I need some points. So let me get, I take a Packer and the Bear, like let's just hope this game shoots out. Like just get me through the first round, and then I have a potential super team where like all the rules of like proper building just get downweighted very significantly, especially again if I spent the expensive pieces. And I think you almost need to, because why do you want it to be Seattle, Denver if you don't have JSN? So
yeah. I like the Ravens again as like a late pieces to help you get out of the first round. Could also like one avenue I kind of like is you go CMC, Kittle, RJ Harvey, Cortland Sutton, and then like later you do Zach Charbonnet and AJ Barner, and you're like heavier on Broncos, but like the great thing about doing this before week 18 is that the Niners and Seahawks are playing each other. So like sure, like,
so you have
either way on the NFC side there, and like if Seattle does get the 1 seed, like you got CMC and Kittle going in the first round there. And I mean we've seen Zach Charbonnet be a guy that you need on the Seattle offense. So if it is this Denver Seattle Super Bowl, like probably not a lot of people have a lot of super live pieces, right? If they're the 1 seeds there. And I feel like that's a way to get some pieces there. Like it's going to be super hard to get it with like, JSN and
I think if I had like a JSN, Harvey, Sutton, and I can get, let's say, a Darnold, I might be okay with 4 there.
Mm-hmm.
You could, this is like I was saying with the Sims, like it's not as like into this guy completes a Super Bowl for me, where it's like, yeah, I know that Elijah Arroyo technically completes a Super Bowl for you, but he won't score any points. So just take someone who will. That's been like it's like kind of a classic thing where it's like, yes, generally you want to have 5 live players in the Super Bowl round, but there are times where checking that box is actually doing more harm than good, or at least there's a better, higher EV option available to you with this pick than simply following, the general rule of thumb of, make sure you have 5 guys live. So I think with something as difficult, because when you think about Denver and Seattle, right? You've got you're devoting 5 pieces of your roster of 10 picks to teams that don't have like a lot of good players on them to score points. Like you've got JSN, and then like Harvey's fine, Sutton's fine, Walker's kind of whatever.
I think Harvey's a pretty good.
Yeah, maybe I'm being rude to Harvey, but it's not like he's not James Cook. He's not. It's not like quite as exciting as some of the other pieces. The other top running backs on their respective teams. So when you're talking about what is this team, not just round 1, but what does this team do in round 2, in the divisional round and the conference championship round? Like, is it just JSN? How many fantasy points exist on the Seahawks roster? Right? How many fantasy points exist on the Broncos? We know can like suck and win. Like we've seen that. So I just think that particular combination, you're probably live as long as you have, again, like what was the example? JSN, Harvey, Sutton, Nix.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Darnold, but like you've got the 4, you got like a pretty strong 4, and now it's like, do I want to add Pat Bryant or Cooper Kupp or Rashid Shaheed or a piece that will help me advance that maybe builds on the other thing I was working on? I think both paths are viable.
Yeah, you're just in with that JSN one. You're spending so much draft capital there on players you're not going to have in the first round that you really have to nail your like final 5 picks that you're making here. And I will say another really interesting thing to me is if it is Denver and Seattle in the Super Bowl, you might not necessarily want JSN there if it's going to be like Pat Surtain on JSN. Like maybe the Seahawks have to find as good as JSN is, right?
Yeah. The other thing is like, who's that psyched about either of these teams?
Yeah.
These are week 1 seeds. These are really week 1 seeds. So I don't, I don't think I'm particularly out of step with consensus to be like, yeah, I don't think Seattle probably makes the Super Bowl even if they're the 1 seed, or Denver. Like Denver's not someone I'm really afraid of, like I normally would be of the 1 seed. It's not like they stink or anything, but they're not as strong as the 1 seed typically is. So that also makes it thin. Well, okay, I've got the 1 seeds. It was so hard for me to get through round 1, and they both lose in round 2 or something. And you're like, great, why did I do that?
Yeah, like certainly it's not, they're not these intimidating teams, and it's not likely. Like I'm sure there are odds out there on like, hey, these 2 teams meet in the Super Bowl. It's probably, they're going to be fucked up odds. So they'll probably offer you like, I don't know, 40 to 1 or something when it's actually much longer. But like there is a definite possibility of this. And with them having to play, just 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, if they do make the Super Bowl, it's just so, I'd be very curious to see like what the teams of left look like there. Like how many
Dude, you're going to be turning over. People are going to be like, I'm live. And they're going to have like JSN and Troy Franklin. And they might be. They might be live.
But could you imagine having like 5 pieces?
Yeah, I mean,
you'd be in a really good spot. You'd be like Sam Sherman last night.
You wouldn't be like Sam Sherman last night because Sam had to sweat it. You would if you had you would be if you get. I mean, I really think
you'd be like Sam Sherman after it was over.
You'd be Sam Sherman after the final play of the game. Yeah, before the game started, it would be kind of you'd flip it over with Seattle, Denver. Given how hard I think that will be to advance, given how unpopular it will be to build on some level.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if in something like the gauntlet. Now, the one thing this is a really important note actually. Not all of these contests have the same round one advanced structures. Some of them are 1 out of 6 and some of them are 2 out of 6. So I'm thinking more in gauntlet terms where it's 1 out of 6.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Gauntlet.
Mitten is 2 out of 6, I believe. So, check your tournament, before you're firing in, make sure, because that really matters. That is something we have built into the sidekick as well. Whatever tournament you're in will have the correct recommendations for that specific advanced structure. But the so specifically for the 1 out of 6 gauntlet style, I mean, it's just gonna be really, really hard to get those teams through. So if you do have 5 and it is those 2 teams, I think it's like you and a handful of teams in the whole final.
I want to find another contest that is 1 out of 6 for playoff best ball and just max it and try to do this Denver. Yeah, like a $5 or $3 entry.
I would need to be
150
like
max.
the jukebox. Like I need to be quarters. If I was gonna max the tournament with Seattle Denver, I would need to be about a quarter an entry.
But if you do 150 entries that all center around this one particular Super Bowl out, and again, just doing it with like a $5 or a $3 entry contest that maxes at 150, I think it'd be pretty fun. Because then, if that's the Super Bowl, like you'll end up advancing maybe a couple teams at 150, right?
I hope so.
They'll be still alive.
I hope so.
We'll have like 4 or 5 players.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It would come down to, and look, I mean, this is if you believe in certain teams to make the Super Bowl and want to build your portfolio around that, like, okay, that's like I think a totally valid way to go, because predicting which team will be in the Super Bowl or which teams are going to be there is a huge part of this game. So if you're like, no, I think these aren't week 1 seeds. I think the market's sleeping on these guys, and Seattle's going to, not only is Seattle not a week 1 seed, I think Seattle's going to smoke the 49ers to get the 1 seed, and that's not baked in. And, Denver's going to go against Trey Lance, so they don't even need, they'll be fine. They're going to have the 1 seed. So, but I'm like, I like both these teams. Elite defenses. I think the offenses are more than good enough. This is going to be the Super Bowl, and that's the way I want to play it. Then sure. But I wouldn't do that if that wasn't where your head was at.
Yeah.
Personally.
I mean, I'm not going to do it for the gauntlet, obviously, or a main contest. I think like if there's a contest that I'm not planning on playing, like this is just a fun thing to do. I think. Maybe I'm crazy.
You just want to try. You just want to see if you can do it.
I just want to see if I can.
This is the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest.
Yes,
it's like you just want to. It's because it's there. I need to see if it can be done.
Yeah, I can do it.
You might be able to do it, but the teams might not win a game. They might both.
I think I can get 2. I think I can get 2 out of 150 in a Denver Seattle Super Bowl.
Yeah, you need Denver and Seattle to get there.
Yeah, this is not even like climbing a mountain. This is free soloing.
Yeah, dude.
A mountain.
Streaming live on Netflix. Apparently, what could go wrong?
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Jaguars pass catchers, which I think 2 weeks ago probably would not have been much of a conversation, but now we have Parker Washington just like consistently lighting up the box score for the Jags. They're very happy with the job he's doing. Liam Cohen can't stop talking about him. Grant Udinski can't stop talking about him. Like, is he in the top 2 Jags pass catchers?
No, but it's close. I think it's still Myers and Thomas, but I think Washington's certainly, in the mix there. And I like Strange as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I think he's had, I would call it a true third year breakout season. Like, this has been very impressive. So, not to take anything away from Washington, but I still do think it's probably Myers, then Thomas, then Washington, then Strange.
Yeah. It's I mean, they're all such viable pass catchers for this team. So I think it's a situation where, we're drafting at volume in these contests where you just gotta sprinkle all these guys in, right? Like we could absolutely see a Brenton Strange 60-yard, 2-touchdown performance in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. Like we could get that from any of these guys.
We easily could. Yeah.
Solve that. Easy question. Next.
I mean, I think the Jags are definitely a target, and I think help. The nice thing about the Jags is that they don't really start until like round 3, right? You got ETN coming off. You get Myers maybe round 4. Then you can Washington and Thomas and Strange will kind of all go throughout the draft, but you can take Lawrence if you want to build directly through the Jags, or you can kind of use them as multiple round advance pieces, but you don't have to start it until about round 3. So they can be like a really nice way to go. Like you can have like a Puka, ETN, Stafford, right? At that 2-3 turn out of the one hole. That's pretty fun. And then it's pretty easy to build through the Jaguars there. And like if you don't take Lawrence, okay, like you have Stafford, you're hoping that it's Jags, Rams, but you have Stafford. I think it's also totally fine to take Lawrence and have both quarterbacks represented. And you probably push Lawrence pretty far, given that you've got the Jags, and Lawrence is, I guess, a little bit more interesting than he was in midseason without his guys, but generally it's not as fun to take the quarterbacks without stacking partners. So yeah, I think I think the Jags. I also think the Texans I'd throw out here is another team from the AFC that you can build through.
So much Texans, and like going back to the contest before the gauntlet, like the way too early one where you were getting the Texans like in the final rounds of that contest. Like this is a team who has like one of the all-time great defenses in the NFL.
They're an awesome defense.
And an offense that is at times good enough, which that formula is good enough to get you through multiple rounds of the
Super Bowl.
Playoffs. Yeah.
It's good enough to get you the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
You've seen that play. I mean, if you have a truly elite defense, and
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yes. Trent Dilfer.
With one of the great defenses of all time.
Who was the Bucks quarterback that beat the Raiders in the Gruden Super Bowl? I can't even remember.
Oh my God. Was it
Brad Johnson? Was it Brad Johnson?
I think it was Brad Johnson versus Rich Gannon.
Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that was, I believe the MVP of that Super Bowl was a defensive player. They had like multiple pick sixes.
Yeah, they had to think 5 interceptions in that game.
Yeah. Big defensive performance. I mean,
and you've seen
it's a crazy because a lot of times you'll see a team who like their defense is like, oh, this is a good defense because the front 7 is really good, or like they have 2 really good edge players, or like they have 2 lockdown. The Houston Texans have everything. They have like 3 lockdown corners. They have 2 incredible edge rushers. They have,
they don't really have to blitz.
Right. Yes. And that's so huge to be able to get pressure, just sending 4 guys. And then you're dropping 7 in coverage, and like 2 or 3 of them are in like incredible cover players in Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Petrie.
that's been the formula, right, for playoff football. I know I've just got like the color commentary in my head from decades of watching football. It's like, you got to get pressure at the front four, disrupt with the front four and get these elite quarterbacks. Like that's kind of the form. Now, if you have one of these elite kind of blitzing defenses like the Broncos do, um, and like a guy like Brian Flores, who obviously won't be in the playoffs, but a guy like Brian Flores can certainly, disrupt elite quarterbacks with the blitz and stuff. But you'd prefer to be able to get pressure consistently with the front four. Like that's kind of that playoff formula. So um I think the Texans have a Super Bowl caliber defense, meaning they get
Absolutely.
to the Super Bowl. I think they could win. I don't think that's crazy, but I don't really care. Like my I'm trying to get. I don't care who wins as long as I get five plus live pieces. And with the Texans, you can get you gotta have like 7 live pieces in the
You
Super
can
Bowl.
you can get any Texans you want. Like the first guy going off is Nico Collins at like the 2-3 turn, and then the next guy is Woody Marks, like 2 rounds later there, and then you have the like, okay, am I going Jaden Higgins, Dalton Schultz, Jalen Knoll is like a scroll down player
Yeah,
who like maybe gives you a little something. CJ Stroud is like the most interesting one to me there. I think of
another
like,
one that you can start late as well. In the
mhm,
3rd round. I mean, so
yeah, yeah,
you could do that with the 49ers. You could build out 49ers Texans, um, McCaffrey, Kittle, uh, Collins. You know, you maybe don't get Purdy in the 4th round, but you could play it through Stroud, or um, you could maybe prioritize Purdy if you want, not Kittle. I'd probably prioritize Kittle, but yeah, I think that when you're on the early side of the board, like out of the 1 hole, 2 hole, that's where the Texans and the Jags kind of become like the fork in the road a little bit. You
yeah.
can you can like in that 3rd round, you can start to go down that path with NFC stuff, like with Rams, with 49ers, with Seahawks, if you take JSN. So yeah, I like both those teams a lot.
Let me ask you about 1 QB versus 2 QB builds. Like what is your cutoff for a 1 QB quarterback if you have that, and just like what's kind of your general philosophy on when you're going 1 versus 2?
So I was having done playoff best ball over the years, and thinking through a lot of uh how I've played comes through Sacrilegious, who's kind of like the playoff best ball whiz. He's just like studied this this game for you know kind of a lot of the edges that we have are edges he's figured out.
Mm,
But what we did the with the Sims is, you know, now we're kind of seeing edges we didn't know existed to a certain extent. And 2 quarterbacks probably a lot better than we thought. Uh, it's not necessary by any means, but it's just not as important to play strictly through like 1 quarterback because there's still variance at the quarterback position. I mean, and I would say this year, maybe not more than ever, but this year more than we were kind of getting used to in recent years, where like Josh Allen, I have a Josh Allen Drake Maye team, and thankfully I did this because I won the league. But for the last 2 weeks, I've been playing Drake Maye, you know,
mm.
and not playing Josh Allen. Josh Allen is kind of stunk over these last couple games from a fantasy perspective. So, I think you will probably run into games where a Drake May has a down game and they win, or Brock Purdy has a really crappy game but they win, et cetera, et cetera. And to have that second quarterback cover you for that week, I would say the Eagles are probably, in a funny way, Hurts seemed like a high floor option a couple years ago. It doesn't really seem that way now. And so on Eagles stuff, you could take, there's really no quarterback where I'm like, I can't take a second quarterback with this guy. It would maybe be if I specifically just did like a hardcore build through that first quarterback's team, and then I just started like tacking on pieces on the other side. If I just like really went heavy, let's say on the Patriots, I just like really went heavy Patriots, and then I'm just like kind of tacking on little pieces of other teams on the NFC side, and I don't really feel like there's much point in adding a second quarterback because that team's, I'm not really even betting on them to get to the Super Bowl. I don't really, the build is like Patriots are in the Super Bowl and they might play, one of three teams. Then, I'd be less likely to want the Super Bowl. But like, let's say I have Josh Allen and, I've got like Khalil Shakir and Kincaid, but I've got, Kyron Williams and Josh Jacobs. So it's like Rams, Packers, Bills. I'll take Jordan Love. Jordan Love could cover a down week from Allen and get me through. Cover like a James Cook. All the Bills stuff it gets through is all James Cook. It's just all James Cook because Allen had like 2 crappy games and he's not even getting, and then, the Bills pass catchers don't really score points to begin with. So you get to the Super Bowl and Josh Allen has the absolute monster game that we know he's capable of. There's no Josh Allen teams. But maybe you get them through because you have Jordan Love and, a Packers build that got you through a couple rounds. The Packers are long dead. They're not even playing the Packers, but you've got some Bills and Kyron Williams and, Josh Allen nukes. And so you don't even need Puka, and you can take it that way.
I love it. Get me back on the Packers with all this Packers stuff. I was just starting to cool off a little bit. Part of it was because I'd seen like, I've taken a good amount of Packers. Maybe we should slow it down a little bit. But the prices have just
the prices are good, man.
Good.
The prices are good.
That's how they get you. They get you with good prices.
Yeah, they do. You talk about like round 3 being late to kind of to break open a team, and you pop the can on the Packers in the 4th round.
I couldn't believe this draft where only Christian Watson goes in the final round.
It's kind of, it's wild. It's wild.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on just like one-off advanced pieces. And like whether it's a guy that you're taking at the end of a draft, or like sometimes I've found myself like, a guy that I took in the 1st round or like 2nd round is going to end up being kind of just like a one-off piece.
That's I think that's the key point, is like being open to that. Where like, James Cook is an advance rate piece because I played to get out of the 5 hole. Cook and Allen were there. I took Cook. Allen doesn't come back, and I'm taking Drake Maye. And then I'm able to get then Henderson comes back and Diggs comes back, and it's like, oh my God, I've got all the Patriots plus James Cook. Like, yeah, cool. If I were to get a team like that, I'd be stoked. But obviously it's not as fun when your 1st round pick is now you're like hoping loses before the Super Bowl. But I think building like that can be very good. It just sort of depends on what your options are in each round, and what room you end up being in.
Yeah. Want to hit some more brief questions here. Are there any teams that you're just completely fading?
I mean, at this point, I'm not like, I don't have a huge teams I'm fading list, but I did, and there are teams everyone's fading now. The Lions, the Cowboys, and one reason to draft early, especially in these 1 of 6 structures, because it's 1 of 6. I think people are really, really drawn to a Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Jonathan Taylor. They're like, dude, if this guy makes the playoffs, I'm in. And it's like, and I'm like, dude, if this guy doesn't make the playoffs, I'm competing against 4 other teams, not 5.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the thing. And I would say maybe now it would really be the Panthers. I'm not really taking Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, and if they do, like, so what?
Yeah.
Who's going to smash? Dowdle had that stretch. I think McMillan's an awesome player, but they don't pass a ton. They don't really want to pass a ton. They could end up, I think the way the tiebreakers work, if the 49ers lose, then they are much more likely to be the 6 seed than the 5. But if the Seahawks lose, they're much more likely to be the 5 than the 6. Because there's like a 3-way tiebreaker that happens that when the 49ers lose, then the Rams become the 5, not the 49ers. So that means that the Panthers, even if they beat the Bucks, are likely to play either the Rams or the Seahawks.
Oh God, brutal.
Yeah.
Let's say you knew that Tetaroa McMillan was going to get you 18 points, but they're going to get smashed by the Seahawks. Like, are you taking him with your final pick?
I wouldn't be slamming him, but I would take him some, and I would take him on bye week teams or teams with Patriots and Bills, because those are the teams with a bunch of pieces who don't score points.
So
beyond the bye week teams.
So there's no there's no locked in teams that you're fading.
Not really. I mean, I'm not dying to take the 1 seeds as we talked about, because even if I get them through, I don't know that there's like this big a payoff as I usually can foresee. It's not like the Chiefs dynasty, that I'm betting on to get through. Or this like team that has really, really high scoring pieces, like the 49ers. When they were the 1 seed, it's like, man, as soon as they come on, come out of the bye and you actually are getting the scores, it's game on.
Yeah.
I've got the horses now. It doesn't really feel that way with the Seahawks. It's you got one dude, and he's been quieter recently than he had been. So, it's just tougher with those 1 seed teams. So I'm not drafting a ton of the 1 seeds right now. Not like I want to hard fade both, but those aren't like huge priority. I mean, I'll take JSN on the first, sure, but those aren't really huge priorities for me right now. But I would also say I am not hard fading them either. So the one team I would say I'm like truly hard fading would be the Panthers. Bucks I think are also a little thin, just the way they've looked recently.
Yeah, I had taken some, like, if I were to get in like real deep trouble at running back, I would take Bucky Irving, but just like,
I was doing that some before.
About it.
Kind of wish I wasn't doing that before.
And then as like a pass catcher, just like, oh, Mike Evans available in the final round. Like, I just need a guy to help get me out of round 1. Like, okay, he's probably going to get 13 targets from a very inaccurate Baker Mayfield. Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as like complete like, I am fading a locked in playoff team. There's a team I have not taken a single player from them.
Interesting.
And let me tell you, I hate 3 things, Pat. Okay, animal abuse, racism, and drafting the Los Angeles Chargers in playoff baseball.
I feel bad for the Chargers to be on that list. That's a tough look.
I mean, this offensive line is like the most despicable thing I've ever laid my eyes upon. It's disgusting. And now they're going to be playing against like pretty good defenses in the playoffs here. And Herbert's still got this hand thing, which, like, okay, he's had good performances post hand surgery, but like there's just some real stink on this Chargers team, I think. And like, I definitely cannot see clip this for later. I can't see them getting to the Super Bowl. I can maybe see them pulling off an upset in round one, maybe. But then even then, like, who are the pass catchers that you want on this team? Like, it's really just Omari and Hampton as a running back, but like beyond that, like maybe a final round Quentin Johnson. I don't even know if, like, I'm guessing his ADP is earlier than final round. I don't know because I have not been drafting
yeah.
whatsoever. What's Omari and Hampton going, 7? I don't know.
Amari
He's like in
Hampton
the 30s,
is
right?
he's got like an ADP at 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, that's like 5th round, 6th round, 5-6 turn kind of range. I think Hampton's okay. And again, it would be like helping me with a bye week or one of these teams where like maybe I have Patriots, but I didn't get Henderson and I have Ramondre.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, help me get through the early rounds. And maybe even the early round but it's like I've got a team in the Patriots that I think is live to make the Super Bowl, but might not score a ton of points outside of the quarterback while they get there. And with it being 1 out of 6 in round one, when you're competing with all these teams, because one thing we haven't really talked about is that, like, depending on how your round 2 goes, you might open up round 2 and it's like it's always a little hit or miss. Sometimes you're like, these are the best teams I've ever seen. These teams are loaded,
Yeah.
but you also might show up against teams that are like half Lions, it's like they just happen to have the right guys that just like went nuts in round one. And, but then like maybe got eliminated. So you could end up in round 2 facing teams that are pretty dead.
We're definitely going to see Lions teams in round 2 from this period where, they were all going in the final round as a week ago, right? Where you could just go
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
last 4 picks, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Goff, kind
Some
of
of those
thing.
teams have the right pieces in round one.
Yes. Yeah,
They
because
do.
it's like they've got picks from the first 6 rounds, right? So like
Right.
they've got whatever, CMC, Nico Collins, the kind of like the cream of the first 6 round crop.
So I'm not opposed to like sacrificing one of my roster spots for the purposes of getting through. As long as like I don't want to be willy-nilly, like just like I've got to advance at all costs in round one. And you see people play the tournament like that. And I just don't think it's a way to make money in the tournament because so much of the money is in week 17.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay if you're saying like I have a really awesome team. I've got the Bills, but I don't have James Cook. I've got Josh Allen, but I've got I've got some really great pieces. Maybe it's JSN Allen. It's like, oh man, if this is it, but I have to get potentially JSN through to round 2. I need a running back to cover. Not having a Bills running back, I'm probably gonna take Ty Johnson or something, or maybe I'm gonna. But I can't even build through the Seahawks running backs if they have the bye. So like, how do I get this team through? Because if I get it through and it's JSN Allen in the Super Bowl, I might be like not sweating. I might I might be like I got this thing. Not probably not quite because the Bills James Cook will probably have a bunch of points and you'll have lots of live James Cook teams, but you will feel extremely good if you have JSN and Allen in a Bill Seahawks Super Bowl. And those are the types of teams where I'd be like, yeah, let me take an Amari and Hampton. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's not even the Derrick Henry bet where I'm like, well, I hope they make the playoffs. They'll be there. So that's like the DeAndre Swift, the Amari and Hamptons, that kind of running back where it's truly more of like, this might be a one-off advance rate only piece, but I think it makes sense in certain contexts.
Yeah, survive in advance. Any teams you're like coming around to a lot more, or just like very much backing off of now compared to a week or so ago?
I mean, I
And
would.
not necessarily because of like playoff seeding or whatever, but just like, oh, I'm much more interested now actually in these players.
I've not been a proponent of the Bears, but I mean, you have to say over the last few weeks that they've, they look much more live to actually go to the Super Bowl. Like you just have to. And I think Ben Johnson has been awesome. Caleb Williams, I tend to be like a little bit less impressed than most, I think, with like some of the inconsistency, but like the highlights are awesome. And it's a team that's built very intelligently around, it's like a run based team, and they're kind of trying to maximize what he's doing in terms of playmaking and the ability to extend plays and avoid sacks and hit plays downfield. I think Luther Burden coming on has been huge for them. Colson Loveland looks good. It's possible they get Odunze back, although that's a little tricky because he re-aggravated his stress fracture in week 15, so he could be out for a while longer. But it's certainly possible they get him back even for the wild card round or maybe the divisional, and that would be a pretty big boost. So yeah, I wasn't really taking Packers or taking Bears at all like 3 weeks ago, but now they're definitely on the menu. Like they're not. I don't think still like a smash, but that would probably be the team that has risen the most for me. Where playing things through like in the same way we talked about with the Jaguars or the Texans or the Packers is kind of a. I mean, they're the freaking 2 seed, but I'm still kind of talking about them that way. But you're still kind of playing things to me like they're a little bit of a dark horse to get to the Super Bowl, but and the ADPs would reflect that. But I think that they're a very viable way to build that way.
Yeah, I'm actually in the same boat with you on the Bears. I was not drafting any Bears teams up until like this past week. They just came off as such a fraudulent team, is like, record
Yeah.
wise, seeding wise, like this. I would love to see what their expected win number is, because it can't possibly be close to the number of wins that they have right now. Like just getting like really good run good, right? We
Mhm.
the kind of run good that Sam Sherman enjoyed in week 17. That's what the Bears have been doing this entire season, like week after week. And it's the way that it used to be with, like the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, they'd get down, 14 points to the Raiders or whatever. You'd be like, don't even worry about it. Like, the Chiefs are going to come back. The Chiefs always come back and win this game. And that's how it's felt with the Bears this year. And not even because like this is a dominant team, but it's like they just come back. They just come back, not necessarily because like they're a great team, just like things work out, right? Like there's a fumble, like there's a crazy fumble here. There's like a tip pass interception here. And all of a sudden, like the Bears are back in this game. They score a touchdown to like get within one score. And like, you've seen this movie so many times this season, you know how it's going to turn out. And you do have to say something for like, all right, Caleb Williams has been really good in the fourth quarter. He's been a clutch player for the Bears.
Yeah, he has. No, he
I'd
has.
love to see that for quarters 1 through 3. Like I'd have much more confidence in this team. I do think that the run game, like you talked about, is such a big piece for them, because this offensive line really moves people.
Mhm.
They have a very high yards before contact. This Bears offensive line, and
And
when you have a run game,
Monangai, he's been so much better than I thought he'd be, and kind of exactly the style of runner that he profiled as, where it's like chunk play, just like hard hat, lunch pail type of yards. And then Swift is a little bit more explosive. So they have, and Swift has been better than I thought he'd be too. He's been a lot more consistent than really he's ever been. And so they do have that kind of that 1-2 punch out of the backfield with a great offensive line, like you're saying. Uh, and I think with that type of formula, you can have I mean, it's a little Seahawksy, right? It's a little bit like big play, you know, and it sometimes like the Lions were. The Lions eventually under Ben Johnson were so good at passing the ball that they didn't really have to be like this, but maybe like the Rams with Goff early on, you know, when they had Gurley and stuff and they could kind of use the run game as more of a threat. The Bears aren't quite to that level of peak Todd Gurley running, but they're a running team. And so Caleb doesn't have to like carry it all on his shoulders. Normally with this team, you do want them to have like an elite defense for a Super Bowl run, and the Bears don't. So that's tricky. But you have, I think, in Caleb, someone who's just better than the typical quarterback in this style of offense.
Yeah.
Because when he does, like, it's like, all right, you know, a lot of times you'd be like, the opposing defense would be like, we're going to make Caleb Williams beat us. You know, we're going to make this quarterback on the run based team beat us. But like Caleb Williams can beat you.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always like he's going to turn it in like it super consistently play to play, but he has had some really, really impressive plays and games this year. So at the same time, like you mentioned, the Chiefs, they're behind the Chiefs this year in point differential. They don't. So like they are like they're well behind the Colts still. You know, the Colts are at 62, the Bears are at 29. Like they're 1 point above the Ravens. And so I think, you know, that's maybe a way to think about that's kind of an interesting comparison because like the Ravens, I think you could see them beating almost anybody, but it's like also tough for me to truly imagine a Super Bowl run. But again, I feel justified in continuing to sort of treat them as like an unlikely Super Bowl team, but they've definitely moved up to where I'm willing to bet on them to come out of the NFC or at least get to the conference championship game and help me that way. The other team, by the way, would be the 49ers, who they just played, as far as a team that I'm like treating as a true Super Bowl contender that I wasn't really a couple weeks ago, where I was like, these are advance rate pieces. And the funny thing about that is they might get the bye.
What was your hesitancy with the Niners, their defense?
Yes, it was.
That's what I'm talking about, of like every team in these playoffs has like, it feels like at least one really big glaring flaw, and that's the Niners flaw. But like people have pointed out, their offense is good enough to keep up with the defense. You just need like 2 stops out of your defense sometimes.
Yeah, and like, you know, Brock Purdy has that. He's got the high. I believe he's the highest EPA per game in the league, ahead of Drake Maye, and has the best success rate in the league. Purdy has been incredible this year. You know, he's missed a bunch of time. Yeah,
when are people like we must be to the point now where like everybody can be on board with the fact that Brock Purdy is a really good NFL quarterback.
I don't think they fully are. I feel like Brock Purdy was at an MVP level a couple years ago. He wasn't really in the conversation because it was like, this is probably fake. You know, we just did this with Garoppolo. Like, you can't fool me, Kyle.
Well, I know he was an MVP like favorite or co-favorite pretty late into that season. It was that primetime game against the Ravens, where Lamar was the co-favorite, right? Like there were 1 and 2.
He kind of lost it to Lamar then.
Purdy threw like 4 interceptions. In that game, and people were like, "There he is, told you."
And it was like his Drake Maye. It's sort of like Drake Maye this year, where like instead of throwing 5 touchdowns against the Jets in like 2.5 quarters, he melted down in prime time. So it was like, all right, well, that's that. But it was sort of like, are we ready to treat this guy like an MVP? And then we weren't. But like, we probably should be again. Like next year, Brock Purdy, I don't know what his odds are going to be for MVP, but they might be too low. Be too low. He's a legit MVP candidate for 2026 when, you know, assuming he gets a full season.
I think the group of people who would say he's not a really good QB. Like in order to convince them, like he would have to do it on another team because I feel like a lot of their argument is Shanahan quarterback. You know, Mac Jones did great this year as well, right?
Yeah, but Mac Jones, the funny thing about Mac Jones doing great this year is that he hasn't been anywhere near as good as Brock Purdy in the stats. Like not anywhere near. The thing about Purdy is that it's a little like Caleb, where when things break down, he can make plays. But unlike Caleb, he's just like maybe the best pure point guard. I mean, I guess Drake Maye might be the best point guard. The 90% completion percentage against the Jets. I mean, I can't point guard better than that. So it's a little, but he's one of the best like point guard, just get the ball where it's supposed to go quarterbacks. But then he actually can make plays under pressure, which I think is what separates Brock Purdy from a Mac Jones or a Jimmy Garoppolo or something like that. And I think that's probably still a little underappreciated. And I think the Mac Jones, what Mac Jones did was very impressive, and I think he deserves to be a starter somewhere next year. But I also think Brock Purdy's a lot better. And I think Brock Purdy, he is enough for me to kind of buy into the 49ers now. Because the defense isn't atrocious. They definitely, like any defense would, suffer from losing Warner and Bosa. But they've managed it. They've managed it where they're not.
Of Robert Saleh. Like that guy gets the most out of his defensive players. Like whatever the talent level is, he's going to maximize that. Brock Purdy really is like a point guard out there. He's like Steve Nash, but with the sauce of Jason White Chocolate Williams.
I love it.
He pulls off moves that like silly quarterbacks pull off, and like we meme them and make fun of them, like the like pump faking 15 yards downfield, or the one a couple weeks ago when he just for some reason reaches the ball out to the side right before he goes out of bounds. Like things that like Mac Jones did in Jacksonville last year, or like he's like Will Levising a little bit, but without the turnovers. It's like what Will Levis was trying to do, like what he envisioned. Like as the play's developing, he's like, I'm gonna do this, and this, and I'm gonna score a touchdown. And then, but like Brock Purdy executes it. I
mean, I think maybe you could sum it up with he's having fun out there, man. He's just out there having fun.
That's a good word. Impression there. It's gonna get you to do the slide in. That's where we are as a society, that one of our greatest joys is a man sliding on live television. We're like, look at this. Look at this. This is incredible.
Delightfully strange.
Yeah. Do you have any like favorite players or builds or like strategies at the current moment?
So one of the I will note a strategy that I enjoy, because I wasn't doing it until we had the sidekick up with the Sims this year, is that because there's certain things where we're like, hey, we want to generally build teams that are these are good principles to build teams, but there's sometimes where doing things a little outside the box is actually pretty good. And that's what Sims are really helpful in identifying. And one thing you can do is build like heavy on one team. So let's take the Eagles, who we haven't really talked about. And I think the Eagles are a pretty good target right now, because you can get, and kind of frankly have been a good target really for weeks. My joke is that the best time to draft the Eagles is when they're playing. Because like literally, it's like the ADPs aside, like people just don't take them.
Yeah.
They're like, this can't be what I
take them in the second half.
Yeah. And well, even then,
0 for 7.
Yeah. It's rough, man. Like watching the Eagles play, you think there's no possible way this
Take
team can
the
go.
Eagles right after their offensive coordinator's house has been egged. That's that's the ideal time to draft.
By the way,
Philadelphia Eagles.
you were like a detective with the. I had not put it together that his house got egged and then they got the rabbit.
But like 2 days later, a rabbit with the biggest fucking egg you have ever seen. The rabbit was like 14 feet tall. This egg was like 4 by 4.
That's a mutiny.
Yeah. It's just the best live tweeting. Incredible.
But you can get with the Eagles, okay? You can get 4 Eagles, including Hurts. So let's say Barkley, one of AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. You probably won't get both. Hurts and Goddard. Okay. So now you've got 4 Eagles. In the past, what I would have said is what you want to do is have probably 2 AFC teams and build through those 2 AFC teams so that you've got 2 viable paths to get through, and you've got your Eagles on the other side. And that way you won't lose too many pieces along the way, right? If you go with more than 2 AFC teams, then you're guaranteed to lose one of them before the conference championship game. Only 2 can possibly make it. So that would have been what I would have said. This year, with the sidekick, sometimes if you get a team like that where you've got Barkley and Barkley and Hurts, and then 2 pretty strong pieces on the Eagles in Goddard and Smith or Goddard and Brown, you're like, Eagles Super Bowls are extremely plus EV for me now. And I don't really care who with. Yeah. So let's say you have James Cook. Does this need to be a Bills Super Bowl? You'd like it to be, especially you have like Cook and Shakir. But if you have Cook and Shakir, Hurts, Barkley, and those 2 pieces on the receiving side, what is Josh Palmer to you? What is a Dawson Knox? Does it matter? Do you care? Why not play it through Woody Marks or Hunter Henry, or and then maybe not even an but an also. So you've got a Patriot, you've got a Texan, you've got those 2 Bills, you've got those 2 Bills plus Patriot, Texan, or a Jag. Or you've got a Bronco. So you've got multiple ways that Eagles plus AFC hits for you, and that build, instead of just saying like, I'm gonna like color within the lines and tack on Josh Palmer to make sure I only have 2 AFC teams so I don't lose anyone before the conference championship game. I'm gonna create a situation where the Bills can be advance rate pieces for me now, and this is a Broncos Super Bowl with the Eagles, and I tacked on Troy Franklin or something like that. And that's pretty sweet, like you have those 4 Eagles plus a Franklin. I mean, that could easily win. That could easily be the 5-player combo that you need. But then, maybe you could also have like a Woody Marks and a Jaden Higgins. You could have a Kayshon Boutte, right? Because you do have Hurts, so you probably like staying in contention with the quarterbacks on the other side, even in Allen. Again, I'm kind of in this particular example, I've got Cook. So I've got Hurts and Cook. I'm probably staying in line with Allen, but I can also, again, maybe Allen's dead, and now I'm playing it through a different AFC quarterback. But I've got Hurts, so I can probably stay reasonably in line with a May against the Eagles defense. I think the Eagles are such an interesting one for this in particular because they have a really good defense that's going to limit the opposition. So you can might not need like a huge stack on the other side of the Eagles. You might just like pick correctly of which guy scores a touchdown against them in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, pretty much with the Eagles, I'd say pretty much any AFC team that you can get, I mean, even because the other thing is you don't have to take AJ Brown in round 2. So that puts, all sorts of stuff on the table. Like you could reach for an ETN, you could take a Henderson, you could take a Harvey, you could take a Collins, So pretty much any AFC team would be on the table with that particular build.
Yeah, I like the Eagles a lot. Like you said, good defense. Lane Johnson, back for them in the playoffs. Um, Obviously, they have the experience of the NFL playoffs and winning a Super Bowl. And then there's the Jalen Hurts thing, which not as much rushing this year as he's had in the past. And people, I think, are expecting that to continue through the playoffs. Like how it's been this year will be how it will continue to go. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to get a lot more design runs for Jalen Hurts now that it's win or go home. And I think the reason I talked about this on the podcast a couple weeks ago, that like the reason we're seeing fewer design rushes is because Jalen Hurts in the offseason went to the coaching staff and said, I don't want to run as much. Let's get less design rushes. And part of that was from the Commanders game last year where he got concussed. He's like, I don't want to be running around all of the regular season. Right. But like once we get into a spot where the stakes are high, and if you don't win this game, you're done for the season. Like they are going to do what they need to do to win games, and Jalen Hurts running and like putting that option on the table, like these RPOs, like that's in turn going to open up more room for Saquon Barkley to run. And then we're going to see some of these possibly right where they get in like empty sets or whatever. And we see Hurts take off on this like 40-yard touchdown run that he did last season. I think in the playoffs, or maybe it was end of the regular season. Like, I think we see a lot more of that from Hurts. So like, if this is all of a sudden a competent offense now, like there's reason to shit on them, right? There's reason to.
Yeah, they're a football team in the playoffs in 2025. Like, there's a reason to shit on every single team.
Yeah.
Who is not shittable on? Like the Rams were kind of like the team that I felt best about. They just looked like crap on primetime, I mean, they kind of pulled it together a little bit, but they lost to the Falcons. Like that's not what a Super Bowl team does, right? Like
let he who is without sin cast the first shit. All right.
Yeah. There's plenty of shit to be passed around right now. Like every single playoff team, every single one, you can poke holes in. And so I just think it's right now, I just want to be in here, and I want to let the room kind of steer me in certain. Ideally, I'm sort of anticipating where I think the room might be steering me, and I can kind of get out ahead of some stuff, but very much playing to the room that I'm in. And look, if this is a room where they want me to take Eagles, I'll take Eagles. If they want me to take Jags, I'll take Jags. If they, if I decide on Rams stuff like a Puka Stafford that it's a Jags time, I'll do that. I might do Texans there. There's certain points where you get to kind of, steer a little bit, but there's other times where it's like, hey, I'm sitting here at the 5-6, and I'm going to take Barkley. There's times where I'm sitting at the 6 and I'm going to take JSN because JSN fell, and I'm going to go JSN May, and hope they they leave enough Patriots for me. But it's just you got to be able to play to the room that you're in.
We're just
as opposed to having like really concrete ideas about which teams get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And again, at volume drafting, like if you're doing 150 or 300 or whatever, even if you seem convinced, like, oh my God, like it's gonna be the Patriots and the Eagles. Well, like you should diversify more than like 150 Patriots Eagles team, right? Like we are just like really ultimately like ticking off boxes like when we're in a draft of like okay, this is going to be a Houston San Francisco team. All right, I'm finished with this draft. All right, marking that down. I've got a Houston, San Francisco. What is this next draft hold in store for me? Oh, it seems like it's going into Jags, Seahawks direction. All right, Jags, Seahawks. Mark that Super Bowl off. Right, like there's all these possible combos of playoff teams, and like if you want, sure, like go to the betting markets and see like what are the odds on all of these Super Bowls if you want to play it that way and kind of put your portfolio kind of top heavier on those, or just like, okay, I'm gonna do like these are the ones that I like the best. I'll try to do more of these, but I'm still gonna do other ones, right? Like it's not a 0% chance that the Bears make the Super Bowl.
Right.
There's a chance.
Right. No, there is. There is. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think you want to start with not like if this team makes a Super Bowl, then like how do I win? But like rather like if this team makes a Super Bowl, I have the nuts. You know, you kind of want to be able to and let the room decide a little bit about which team makes the Super Bowl. So for example, let's say you have that JSN May start, then you might end up in a situation, depending on where the room falls, where May becomes a bye week advance piece because no Patriots come back, right? So you're going to get that. It'd be out of the 6 hole probably, or out of the 5-6, maybe out of the 5 hole. But you get that. Diggs is gone, Henderson's gone, and so really this is now a team that's like going to be more built around the Seahawks. That's your Super Bowl team because I mean, yes, you could get, it's possible, but it's not. You show up to a Super Bowl with May, and you don't have Henderson and you don't have Diggs. Like, your best bet is to have it be Seahawks. So you kind of might as well play it through the Seahawks anyway, and then that allows you an opportunity to potentially change up your AFC bet and take an ETN. If ETN were to come back to you in the third, you could take ETN and Ken Walker or something like that, or build it through Nico. Nico probably won't come back, but you could kind of build it through a different AFC team to face Seattle, and Drake Maye is literally just to get Sam Darnold through the first round. So on the other hand, if the room hands you Travion Henderson or Stephon Diggs, now you could play that like as clearly Patriots Seattle Super Bowl, and it becomes about getting that team through round one. So you've got like the key Seattle pieces, some Patriots pieces, and then you're like advance in the final couple rounds maybe, because you have a like low scoring offense plus bye week team, low scoring. I would say uncondensed offense. The offense puts up points, but it's hard to know exactly where they're going to go. But yeah, you haven't captured a ton of points with either team that you're building around. So anyway, I don't know which team I'm going to build when I take JSN and May. I just have no idea, but letting the room kind of tell me which version of it and pivoting as I go.
Yeah, just being flexible, pivoting, and finishing the draft with like viable pathways, right? Maybe it's not the most likely outcome according to the betting markets, but this is like one of 150 teams that I'm drafting, or like one of 300 or whatever. Like each team is a different scenario, right? So I'm going to have a lower advance rate than if I were just drafting to advance a team. Like you could do that. You could just draft to advance a team, like get all these players who will kind of be one and done, and then you end up
never ever take bye week players. Never take bye week players. Right? That would be a key.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't take any. I never take JSN, or I never whatever. I mean, if you really wanted to draft to advance, you would draft next week, heavy volume, because exactly, like however much volume you're going to do, the vast majority of it would be in that final week because who the bye week teams are. You wouldn't take any of them ever, and you would draft a hodgepodge of high scoring players, and you would advance a lot of teams.
Yeah. But it'd be a
problem
lot.
is that all the money is in the final week, and you
Yep.
have to have players who are live in the Super Bowl to actually make it,
Yeah.
to make the money.
Have you been spacing your drafts out, or have you been attacking harder during certain periods?
So I still have a ton of drafts that I need to do. This is the first week I'm not writing, because I do a weekly write up at weeks 1 through 17 of all the games, and so I'm not doing that this week. So I've been drafting a little bit more this week, and hoping to draft a bunch more. I've had some other stuff, including working on dialing in on all the rankings for the people using the Sidekick. So there's things I've been having to do besides draft, but over the next couple days, I'm going to do a bunch of volume, and then I will do a ton of volume in the final week, and take advantage of the knowledge of all the one seeds and whatnot. But I was really, about 2 weeks ago, it was like a really fun period. Last week, for whatever reason, I was like, I don't know, I'm just not feeling the combos right now. But I'm liking. I think these rooms right now are fun.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we all know a lot, but we still don't know everything. So it's like a fun little, yeah,
Do
a
you
little
burn
state.
out after a certain number of drafts in a day or like a period of time? Because I'm like, all right, 4 drafts. I'm done for several hours right now.
It depends. Like if I draft a bunch at the same time, then I'm more likely to burn out. If I can just sit and do like one at a time, and maybe I've got something else going on. I know I've been touting the Sidekick a lot, but it has an on the clock notification sound. That's pretty good for multitasking.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I've missed several picks from not having that.
Pretty good. You enter a high stakes draft, it doesn't
Yeah.
fill, then it fills, and you hear the OTC sound
Yeah.
because you forgot you were in it. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's pretty good. So,
I've actually missed like multiple picks because like my phone will just be on silent and I'll have like another screen up where I'm working, and like I forgot to like tab it right to where I can, or I will have it tabbed right and I just like won't look to see that, like, okay, well,
yeah.
one left to fill. We're getting close. I've just like missed multiple picks, and then all of a sudden I look at my phone like, oh my god, I got like 4 notifications.
Hey, that's all. Yeah. Oh no.
What's the maximum number of players that you would draft from a single NFL team?
Let me even think about.
I think I'm 5.
I think if you gave me McCaffrey, Purdy, Kittle, Jennings, I'm probably capping out. Yeah, I'm trying to like thinking like who would I actually want? ETN. Well, it's probably the Jags, right? ETN,
Yeah,
Myers, Thomas, Lawrence, Washington, Strange, Tootin. I would. You could talk me into 7. You could talk me into 7. If it's like I'm just like Jags onslaught, like because I'm starting it late, so I've got.
Do you like Philly Jags?
Like a Puka. Well, I guess if you for some like if you did Puka, Kyron, and Stafford got sniped, and then you're just like, fine, you know what? I don't even care. This is Jags Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then you just take a bunch of Jags and maybe one other one-off piece to get to 10.
Yeah, just single QB with Lawrence and a couple Rams pieces, maybe.
Yeah.
And you can do that with Philly as well. I feel like get a pretty nice team there with like a Saquon and AJ Brown and then ETN. Just like fill it out. Damn, might have to for a few drafts. let me write this down. Jags onslaught. Oh, Pat Kerrane, 50%.
Yeah, Jags Eagles is pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's no Denver,
Seattle. It's no Denver, Seattle having 5 live pieces in the final. But hey, I understand if you don't want the 2 1 seeds.
What if a tournament it was like it was 25 cents to enter, but in order to enter it, you have to declare your 2 Super Bowl teams ahead of time. And that's just you have to have at least 5 live players from those teams in every draft. In the Super, you have to have at least 5 of those 2 teams combined.
I want no qualifiers. I want they're back. Raw dog, Denver, Seattle.
Like, to be clear, no one made me do this.
Yeah.
There was no rules that said I needed to do this.
I just want the world to know Pat Kerrane hates great defenses playing at home who just have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. He said it's impossible. He said it will never happen. He said Denver, Seattle, in your dreams. You're not sleepless in Seattle. You're sleeping. You're dreaming. It's not going to happen.
I'm looking forward to you posting a picture of you on vacation with the screenshot of Denver, Seattle, and just saying, let me know how the Super Bowl goes. I don't need to watch. I got this thing locked up.
I'm going to make 2 promises, all right? Denver, Seattle, Super Bowl, and I've got live pieces. I've got like 5 live pieces to win. I'm going on vacation. I'm going to Seattle. I hope it rains. I'll hang out there. Maybe I'll split between Seattle and Denver. I'll do a day in Seattle, a day in Denver. I go back to Seattle for a day. I go back to Denver for a day. Other promise, if I win.
Yeah, like you got to go to Red Rocks. That's the move. Instead of watching the Super Bowl, you just go see a show at Red Rocks.
I hope it's a good one.
I don't know what they have up the Super Bowl that night.
What's their counter programming? Probably like the Wiggles.
Red Rocks. Now we're looking at the Red Rocks schedule. Let's see what we can get you going.
And NBA counter programming. John Tesh.
What's the date of the Super Bowl?
Round Ball Rock. Was it like February?
I don't think they have shows going on.
Wow, Super Bowl's so February 8th.
Looks like they have some kind of Winter on the Rocks on the 7th. So you can't even counter program the Super Bowl at Red Rocks.
I could be there the night before the Super Bowl, get like blackout at the winter was it Winter Festival?
Winter on the Rocks.
Winter on the Rocks. What? It's in February. Why? That's something you do in December.
Yeah.
Their headliner is Santa. That's crazy. Santa's playing at Red Rocks.
Santa, man.
The night before the Super Bowl. Dude, we should get Santa for the halftime show. That'd be so sick. So that's promise number 1. All right. I'll vacation back and forth between Seattle and Denver. Promise number 2, if I win the gauntlet with a Jacksonville team, I will get a Duval tattoo.
Oh man.
On my neck right here.
On the neck.
So when like I put my neck up, it stretches a little bit, right? I can like manipulate the neck.
You need extra A's. What you need to do is actually gain weight so that you have a little bit of folds.
Yeah.
So that then when you stretch out, you get the extra Duval.
I had a couple friends back in like 2007 or 8 offer me I think it was like $5,000 to get up to 300 pounds.
What?
Yeah. It's like, that's not worth it. Like
that's not enough. That's a pretty lofty.
What's your?
I don't know what I'm looking at you now. You don't look close to 300. So
no, I'm like
it would have been a project.
160.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I was like 155 at that time. Yeah, it was. What's your number?
What do I weigh?
No. How much money for you to like double?
Oh,
double your weight.
Well, I mean, I've had a kid, so doubling my weight means more than it does for you. But I put on the old the dad 15.
Yeah.
But I think to double my weight, I mean, I did win Best Ball Mania, so like
Mhm.
I would be a pretty give me I would give me 5 million. I'm not doubling my weight for it's that's a I'm gonna weigh basically like 380.
Yeah.
No, no.
Damn, I was gonna offer you 4 million, but I guess not.
Basically, I'm not doing it. That's the answer is no. But
Yeah.
if it was a ton of money to the point it would be insane to turn down, then maybe I'd consider it.
Yeah. All right. Well, any
These are the
advertisements out
luxuries
there? Any
of
companies
winning
out there?
BBM is that you don't have to double your weight unless you really want to.
Oh man, this society is really going downhill. They're paying people to gain weight.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your friends are leading the charge.
It's the new gig economy.
Yeah.
Was it mukbang? Is that
It's a
where
Black
you like
Mirror episode, I think.
watch
They
someone
did
eat?
this, right?
Um, yeah, I think we could probably get you up to the 5 million if like some people, if those mukbang people want to pay to watch you eat on your journey.
This was a story you told. Now it's becoming about me. Let's get back to you gaining the weight.
Yeah.
I don't want to gain the weight.
Sure.
I'm trying to lose weight.
Last question. I'm marking off like 12 weight related questions I had coming into this. It's like I don't know why. All of a sudden, I'll just ask him 13 questions about his weight.
Not on the show sheet, I noticed.
Last question. How are you tracking your team combos to make sure that you're not like duping, or to get a good idea of like, okay, maybe I want some more of these teams?
Yeah, I need to probably sit down and track that a little bit better than I have so far. But to be honest, I guess what I would note is like you do not need to be overly concerned about duping. And I guess in the way that I've been thinking um about like mixing up my exposures and kind of balancing my portfolio is really been to the extent that I have been able to with my work schedule and stuff, drafting in different windows. And different windows can even mean like, in this case, drafting Saturday night, Sunday morning would be almost a different window than Sunday, because we still won't know the result of the Ravens Steelers game, but we'll have those Saturday games, which are very meaningful. So we will have again more information, but not all the information on Sunday morning. And so that'll be a good time, or Saturday night as well. That'll be a good time to draft. And because I'm so focused on trying to like be nimble in these rooms and not be like locked into certain things, and not going into a draft saying like it's Eagles time, right? That like just drafting in all the different windows has been my way of kind of keeping somewhat of a balance going. But like honestly, I'm going to have bets on certain teams in this playoff best ball season, because that's where I found out the edges were in these drafts, Like I think I'm going to be heavy on the Texans, and I'll probably be heavy on the Jags, because I think those teams look like they can make some noise in the AFC, and particularly the Jags can really put up points in multiple parts of my lineup. I'll probably be heavy on the Eagles because I was willing to draft them while they were on. I have a lot more Packers than I think most people will end up having. So there's going to be teams that I'm just heavier on, and I'm okay with that. Like if there was like, this is a game that I'm going to be playing for multiple seasons, which that's my plan, then this year I'm going to be heavy on teams that I thought gave me an edge, and maybe that doesn't work out. Next year, hopefully it will. Next year, hopefully it will after that. Like that's kind of more the way I'm playing, as opposed to trying to create like a super balanced portfolio. And then again, the duping element, you're going to lose teams. Like we just went through the Best Ball Mania cut down. So everyone's, got that fresh in their minds of how painful those cut downs are. These are 1 out of 6, at around 1. So it's not as painful, but it's still pretty tough, and so you're going to have the nuts, and the nuts won't get through round 1. And so having like different versions around like, hey, these Eagles stacks with AFC stuff on the other side, or whatever your particular, kind of like build of choices right now, like having like, oh, I got like this one, but it's got a little double of the Bills, or this one, and it's got this little Seahawks thing mixed in, or whatever it is. I mean, you could give me a few like exact replicas of the team. Like the Podluck's going to be enough where one version of that team will get through and the other won't. I'm not super, as long as I'm building teams the way that I'm building them, and breaking ties, and not just taking like the same. Like I'm not always taking Josh Palmer over Keon Coleman, or Brandon Cooks or whatever, right? Like if I'm taking like, or Dawson Knox, like low scoring build does not get labeled to the same player every single time. I'm not trying to take Brenton Strange and Parker Washington and Brian Thomas like always in the same order. So I'm trying to like break ties and mix things up that way. But outside of stuff like that, I think it's okay to be like a little bit, to dupe yourself in certain ways, or at least like in almost dupe yourself in these teams, because there's just gonna be a lot of chaos.
That was actually a fake final question. Real final question. Tell us about the sidekick and how you're using it for fantasy best ball or playoff.
Yeah, so this is a tool that it gives you recommendations as you go. So it's dynamic rankings, and for playoff best ball, once you take a team, a lot of the players on that team become a lot more valuable, and you kind of start to go down the path. So I find the sidekick really helpful to draft with, because it gives you good recommendations that you can literally just, take. Or if you don't want to take the recommendations exactly, and you're kind of like, I want to build, I'm not that interested in Texans, man. I'm just not. Like, their offense sucks. They don't have a good offensive line. I'm not doing it. I'm taking Jags. As soon as you take Jags, it's like, cool, Jags. We love Jags. Let's, Jags now have like a ton, like additional Jags give you a ton more EV. So it gets on board. It's a sidekick. Like it's built to kind of like get back on board with whatever you're doing. So that's, I think for playoff best ball, it makes it really, really fun. It's very helpful for multi-tabling. And then the other key thing to mention is that the yearly subscription covers 10 months of drafting, because it covers playoff best ball, all the pre-draft NFL stuff, and all the stuff in the summer. So that works out to about $50 a month if you use it for that. Even if you only use it for 6 months, it's like $83 so if this is a time where I, kind of encourage the yearly subscription, because you get this, and then you get everything else rolled in. If you're drafting playoff best ball, I assume you're interested in, drafting 6 months of best ball-ish, so, or maybe more. And it covers all of the those best ball windows under the same sidekick yearly subscription. You get the full 12 months with the yearly subscription. So you can check all of it out at legendaryupside.com/sidekick.
Everybody needs a good sidekick. What you think you're better than Johnny Carson? Huh? You think you're better than Batman?
Than Conan?
Yeah, come on. Well, we didn't quite go as long as you and Rich go on angles and upsides. We're at 2:15, but pretty good app, I would say.
Pretty good app. No, it's been a ton of fun.
I feel like I'm an expert on this app because it's just two of us here. So I know what's been going on. I feel
you do. Yeah, I would say you have a pretty qualified opinion on this app.
I'm in the top 2 experts on this episode that has not yet been released.
I think so. I agree with you.
Pat, thank you so much. This was a blast to talk through all this stuff, and I'll see you in the gauntlet streets, my friend, and I'll see the rest of y'all out there. Go get the sidekick. Go check out Pat's work at Legendary Upside. Incredible work from Pat. All right, later.